wanted the fastest to meet her, and they all us by our side to save the world from the Titans' pride. In the midst of chaos,
Hey guys, Christoph here for another Elestrals video, and this one's for all the newbies. This is for the people that are undecided if they want to join the game, undecided on what they should buy when they join the game, and just things you should know about certain cards. I have some notes here. I'll be looking down at the notes every few seconds, so bear with me. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the top 10 cards that you guys should buy when you're starting to play Elestrals. Remember, Elestrals is officially on TCG Player, so you guys can go check that out. Any cards you need. Hundreds of thousands of cards are listed, you know what I mean? So make sure you check that stuff out. But here's my opinion, top 10 cards you should buy. Number 1, Ash Rabbit. Ash Rabbit's a 2 attack, 5 defense, lets you pick top 3 cards up of your deck, pick a card and reshuffle your deck. That happens every time you receive a Thunder Spirit onto it. So there's a bunch of maneuvers that you could do to add spirits to that Elestral called Nexusing, which we'll go over in a later video. But again, every time you receive Thunder to that Elestral, you're going to pick the top 3 cards up of your deck. You can do that multiple times a turn. It is unlimited amount of times in that turn that you can do that. So Ash Rabbit, when it comes to Elestrals, is arguably one of the best cards in the game. Next one's going to be Eddie. Eddie's a new card that came out in Daybreak. It is a 4 attack, 1 defense water enchanted Elestral, and it states that when it's cast, you can switch a position of one Elestral on the field. It has a secondary effect to Ascend, which we'll also go over in a later video, but for this purposes, we're talking about that very first effect. When you summon Eddie, you're going to switch a battle position of an Elestral on the field. So, for instance, let's talk about the Ash Rabbit I just named. 2 attack, 5 defense. So you're always playing that in defense mode. If you summon Eddie, you're switching it to attack mode. Almost everything in the game is going to hit over that Ash Rabbit at that point. Next up is Galaxy. The recent shift of the ban list, the latest Premier Tournament, Galaxy stock went through the roof. So Galaxy is a water enchanted Elestral, 2 attack, 5 defense, which states that every water enchanted Elestral on the field has its attack and defense swapped. So 2 attack, 5 defense switches it to a 5 attack, 2 defense. And that happens to every Elestral on the field. Talk about Eddie, for instance. Eddie is a 4 attack and 1 defense. You're going to play Galaxy, that's going to flip. Literally every Elestral in the game can either crash into it or destroy it. And it's just a good card to have in your deck. Even if you're not running a primarily water deck, if you know you're going up against someone who has, like, say, Draking, for instance, that's water enchanted, or Kerberos, you're going to go ahead, play Galaxy. Those attack and defense are going to switch back and forth, and then you're going to be able to hit over those cards with most of the Elestrals in your deck. Next up is going to be Altar of Stars. This is a Nexus card. So it's going to say, lets you Nexus 1 spirit on the field. When you do, you're going to change a battle position of an Elestral on the field. So Ash Rabbit's going to be my example for this one on both scenarios. Okay, so I have Thunder on the field. I'm going to use Altar of Stars' first effect to Nexus a Thunder Spirit onto Ash Rabbit. Now I get to use Ash Rabbit's effect to search my deck again. Also, the secondary effect, switch a battle position. Again, say they have a 5 defense Ash Rabbit on the field. I'm going to use the secondary effect to go ahead and switch it to attack mode. Go ahead and attack over it. Another good combo to use with this is if you get Tsunami'd, which I'll go over that in just a second. I start to attack my opponent. They play Tsunami. I go to defense position. I'm going to play Altar Stars, put my Elestral back into attack position, attack again. Tsunami. Speak of the devil. It is a 1-cost water that states all non-water enchanted Elestrals move to defense position. So again, you're saving this card that, number 1, if you want to protect an Elestral on the field, or number 2, if your opponent has a bunch of Elestrals and they're attacking you at once, play Tsunami, you're going to turn the entire board defense. They can't attack right now. Poison Tipped Arrow. Arguably the top counter rune in the game. Your opponent's going to play an Elestral, you're going to play Poison Tipped Arrow. It doesn't matter if it's a normal cast or a special cast. You're going to play Poison Tipped Arrow. It's going to lose 2 attack the entire turn. During the end phase, you're going to expend spirits depending on the enchantment cost of the card. Doesn't matter how many spirits are on that said card. It all matters is how many are the enchantment cost is. So Galaxy, for instance, is a 1-cost Elestral. It's going to cost me 1 additional spirit to destroy it. So Poison Tipped Arrow is a 1-cost counter rune to play, but just know when you play it, if you're using the full effect, it's going to cost you 2 to 4 spirits depending on the cost of said Elestral. Gorgon's Gaze. This one's going to tie, I think. There's 3 counter runes in the game that tie for first place. Gorgon's Gaze is the second one. Basically, you're going to target an Elestral on the field. You can't attack with it. You can't use its ability. You can't Nexus with it. You can't do anything with it. It's literally turned to stone, hence Gorgon's Gates. Literally, the artwork is Medusa. Like, it's not doing anything that turn. In my opinion, the third counter rune that ties with the first two is going to be Shield of Achilles. Shield of Achilles is just like Poison Tipped Arrow when it comes to cost. It's going to cost you 1 to play it, and the additional effect on it is going to cost you 1 to 3 spirits, depending on the enchantment cost. But my opponent's going to go ahead and attack me. I'm going to play Shield of Achilles. Anyone who played Yu-Gi-Oh! And knows the card Mirror Force, kind of what Shield of Achilles does, except for it bounces the Elestral back to your hand. So I have Astrab in attack mode. My opponent's attacking me with that 5 attack Galaxy. I'm going to play Shield of Achilles. It's going to cost me 1 to play, and then it's going to cost me 1 additional spirit to bounce that Elestral back to my opponent's hand. This is a great card to use against any Elestral that's a 2 or 3 drop. Or cost, I should say, to summon, because now they can't get that card out next turn unless they have other Elestrals. You can use the Shield of Achilles to protect your Elestrals on field against a 1 cost, but just understand that 1 cost is probably coming back out the next turn. Ambrosia. Ambrosia, almost every single deck out there will have 3 copies of this card, no ifs, ands, or buts. The only deck that might not would be a solar or water deck, because they have a lot of Elestrals that have effects to heal. But Ambrosia states it costs you 1 spirit to play. You're going to heal 3 spirits from your underworld. So it costs you 1, heal 3 back. Again, it's a staple in every deck. Not every element has healing like water and solar does. So this is a card that you're going to need in almost every single deck. And the last one that came out in Daybreak, it's one of the newest cards on this list, is Cryoblast. Cryoblast is a 1-cost Frost. You can only use this card on non-Frost enchanted Elestrals, but it states -2 defense of that Elestral. If it reaches 0 because of this effect, destroy the card. So there is a type of deck that people run in this game called 5s. 5 guys. Every Elestral basically has a stat that reaches 5. Most of them are going to be attack stats. It's basically, you can look at every single Elestral that has a 5 stat at a 1 cost. Their defense is 2 or 1. So Cryoblast will destroy every single one of those cards. That's going to be a lot of the cards in the game. A lot of meta relevant cards in the game get outed by Cryoblast. And I have a couple honorary mentions as well. These are cards that are limited but still sought after, and still you want to try to put them in your deck, depending on what deck you're running. Lavalith, 2-cost fire, states that if your opponent has 2 or more enchanting spirits on the field than you do, you can normal cast it. It is a 2-drop, but per its effect, you can normal cast it without ascending. That being said, also, when you summon it, you can destroy a rune, one of your opponent's runes. So, very good if they have, say, Zeus or Demeter with multiple spirits. You can go ahead and pop those cards. Or if they have a face down, if they have 1 face down, you can go ahead and pop it. A lot of times, if you're choosing their Gorgon's Gaze, they're going to activate Gorgon's Gaze, so you can't attack that turn, but you're still costing them 2 spirits, and you're still costing them to use that counter rune. So, to a degree, it's a win-win scenario. Resting on your laurels. It is a 1-cost Omni Rune Spirit, which means you can use any element to play that card. It was originally in the Wind starter deck, the Pantera starter deck. I believe it's been reprinted once in one of the other starter decks. I'll have to double check that. But it also had a Hollow and Shattered Stars the Wind month. It states that if your opponent has 2 or more enchanting spirits than you do, you can go ahead and destroy an Elestral that has the least amount of spirits on it. If your opponent has 2 Elestrals that are both 1 enchantment on it, you can go ahead and destroy whichever one you want. So again, if my opponent has Galaxy and Astrabbit on the field, they each have 1 spirit, I get to choose which card is destroyed. If they have an Astrabbit that has 2 spirits and the Galaxy that has 1, it has to be the Galaxy. So good card to have for destruction purposes, but you want to make sure you play it in the right moment. If all their Elestrals have the same spirits on them, it's a win for you. Regardless, you're destroying Elestral, so it's still a win-win. Elechick. This card, so every card I'm naming right now, by the way, has been reduced to 1 copy per deck. That's why it's an honorary mention. It's not a card, in my opinion, that's going to be in the top 10, but it's a card you want to keep an eye out for. Elechick is a Thunder Elestral. It is a 4 attack, 1 defense, which states when you cast this Elestral, you can search your deck for a Divine Rune and add it to your hand. This was a real meta card. Any deck that ran Divine Runes for combo purposes had at least 2 or 3 of these in their deck. Now that it's been limited, there's another card called Plucky that people like to use, which will be later on in this video. It's the same exact effect. The only difference is it's defensive versus offensive. Elestrals 4 attack, 1 defense. Plucky is the exact opposite, a 1 attack, 4 defense. So you're not being very offensive with that card. And the last honorary mention is going to be kind of a tie. It's Zeus and Demeter. They are both the only divines in the game right now that have been limited to 1 per deck. Zeus is a thunder, and then Demeter is earth. Pretty much the same effect to a degree. In my opinion, Zeus would be the better card. Zeus states that you can disenchant 1 spirit off of this Zeus to go ahead and pick an Elestral on the opponent's field. They lose 3 attack, 3 defense. Very good card to have because you can attack. Every single one of your Elestrals is going to go ahead and attack over that. Add that to Cryoblast. So say Astrabbit's a 5 defense right now, and I can't get over it. I'm going to use Zeus effect to lower its defense by 3, so it's down to 2. Then I can go ahead and play Cryoblast, which will lower it to 0, which destroys the card. Demeter, on the other hand, buffs your Elestrals. The only downside is you only buff 1 Elestral at a time. So one good combo to use with that would be a Water Enchanted Elestral. I'm not saying necessarily Galaxy. We'll use Galaxy as an example here. I'm going to have Galaxy in attack mode. It's going to have a 5 attack because of its ability. I'm going to go ahead and use Demeter, buff it up by 3, and attack. If my opponent has a Tsunami face down, they can't use Tsunami because it's a Water Enchanted Elestral. So in those kind of scenarios, Zeus is the better divine because my opponent's card is going to get lowered, and then everybody on my field should be able to attack over it. Versus Demeter, you're only going to be able to have 1 Elestral benefit from that scenario. Next up is going to be the starter decks. There are 9 starter decks really out as of right now. Moonrise comes out in about a month and a half, about a month or so. So we'll have 2 more starter decks. But as of right now, the 9 starter decks that you could buy, in my opinion, the number 1 would be Chronodial. Chronodial is a whole water package, a water nexus package. Again, combos and nexusing and all that kind of stuff we'll go over in a future video. But basically, it's an all-rounder deck that actually has won a couple tournaments. It's won a couple webcam tournaments, like the Swiss Best of 4 format. It's won locals. So it's a very good, it's more of a structure deck. Anyone who's played, say, like Yu-Gi-Oh, for instance, they came out with starter decks years ago, and then they came out with structure decks. Structure decks being more advanced. Chronodial is that deck. You're going to have cards like Altar of Stars in that deck. You're going to have cards, I believe Shield of Achilles is in that deck. So you're going to have meta-relevant cards. You're going to have cards that were in this top 10 that I named that you're going to get in that deck. And then the Water Nexus package, too. There's so many different combos you're going to be using with that. The other Daybreak starter deck, Pharaohgeist. That's another one that's really good because you're going to have yourselves Poison-Tipped Arrow. You're going to have Altar Stars in that deck as well. You're going to have these meta-relevant cards. You have cards like Half Mel, which is a 1 cost. When it's destroyed, you get to heal 3. You have cards like Lumaru. It's a 5 attack. If it destroys an Elestral, your opponent has to mill 3. Milling is taking the cards from the top of your deck and putting them in the underworld. So again, my Lumaru is going to destroy, say, Astrabbit that's in attack mode. Now the top 3 cards of my opponent's deck hit the underworld. So they do have some really decent cards. Plucky, I believe, is in that deck, in the Pharaohgeist deck. So just cards that overall are going to help you get set up. When Elestrals came out with Frostfall and Daybreak starter decks, they also gave you 3 additional packs. So there is a chance to get more meta-relevant cards in those packs as well. You're able to get full arts, hollow spirits, serialized stellar rares, which we'll go over later on as well. They're serialized 1 out of 99. There are 1 out of 10s, you won't get them in the packs like that. But you're able to pull these cards just from 3 random packs of starter decks. So when it comes to starter decks, guys, definitely Daybreak. Both Daybreak ones I'd go after. If you're going to go the Frostfall one, I would say, honestly, the Cryo Scorch one is better than the Penguin and Parawatt deck. If you're talking about the original 5 starter decks, honestly, for me, I'm a Thundercaster by trade. I would say the Imperial one. You're going to get Zeus in that one. You're going to get Spark It, which is a banned card, but it is a super good card. If you bring that starter deck to an event, you can play it, as long as you do not mess with the deck list. Very good deck. The one after that, honestly, for me, would probably be the Centaur, the Earth one, because you're going to get your 2 Poison-Tipped Arrows in that deck. Centaur's entire line, Sproutus, Cytimber, Centaur, very good set of cards if used properly. And the last thing we're going to go over in this video is if you are going to go ahead and buy a booster box, which booster box should you get? I'm going to name all 3 of them in this video. Frostfall would be your bottom tier one, so we're not going to go over the said cards in that set. There are some good cards, but if it was me, I'm getting into the game, I want to try to build the most meta relevant deck I could. Base set's going to be my first one. Base set, you're going to get cards like Earthquake. Costs you 2 Earth, it's going to pop any Elestral on the field. Tsunami, that's a card I named in this top 10. You're going to go ahead, that switches all non-water chain Elestrals to defense. You're going to go ahead and get that just as a non-holo. I think it's an uncommon. Same thing with Galaxy, same thing with Shield, Ash Rabbit. Those are all cards that are in that set. Equalinx is a Earth. That was limited to 1 card, but it says Nexus to Earth. When you do, you can destroy a rune on the field. That's been limited to 1, but that's a rare in the set. Elechick, we talked about that in honorary mentions. That's a common in the set. Jolton is a card that I did not name in the top 10. It's very close, in my opinion, to the top 10. Search your entire deck for a Stadium rune, add it to your hand. So those are all card, like none of those are holos. The Equalinx is rare. It's more on the rare side to get, but everything else in that I just named are either commons or uncommons. You're going to get those regularly. And then Daybreak. Daybreak's the newest set. There's still cards that, honestly, some people are still exploring to a degree. But Eddie, that was in the top 10. Eddie, switch any position of Elestral on the field. That's a common. There's a card called Mudlet. It's a 3/3 Earth cost. Every time it receives Earth, change a position of Elestral on the field. Again, you can do that multiple times. There's a counter rune called Bloom. It says Nexus Earth. When you do, enchant Earth to the field. If you do that with Eddie, with Mudlet, you're doing that effect twice in 1 turn. Spectaris, 4 attack, 2 defense. When it enters battle with an Elestral, the Elestral that it battles gets suppressed, which means it can't activate its abilities. Then you get +1 attack for each suppressed Elestral on the field. That is your Galaxy breaker right there. Spectaris versus Galaxy. Spectaris wins every time because it shuts that ability off. Cryoblast. That was one of our top 10. It is a rare, so it's going to be a little bit harder for you to find. But that's in the set as a non-holo. So you can pull multiples. I think one box I pulled 4 or 5 of those. That is a very meta-relevant card. Rock in a Hard Place. It is a newer card. It works with Eddie's secondary effect to ascend into Curubus. But it can't be countered. I play Rock in a Hard Place and you have face downs. You can't do anything until that effect is done. But I choose one Elestral on your field. I choose one of your runes on the field. You pick one to be destroyed. If you happen to choose one of your face down or one of your runes and you have more runes, I can do it again. As long as there's 1 rune on the field and there's 1 Elestral on the field, I can keep playing Rock in a Hard Place. To special ascend it a Curubus, that's a 9 attack. Crazy card. If Drat Kid's on the field, which officially comes out in Moonrise, play Rock in a Hard Place. I send into Drat King, which has 1 tournament. That card came out previously in Shatterstar's Lunar Month, so it is allowed to be played. It is legal. That's a card that's 1 tournament, guys. Like, it is a very good card. I talked about Lumaru and Plucky in the Fairgrass starter deck. Lumaru having a 5 attack, destroy a card. Your opponent has to burn 3 cards off the top of their deck. Plucky, just like Elechick, I get to go ahead and search my deck for a Divine, add it to my hand. The last card for Daybreak that I think is really relevant is Ash Rabbit. It is a Nexus variant of Ash Rabbit, which states that when it receives fire, I can choose 3 cards in my Underworld. You pick one to add back to my hand or my Spirit deck if I choose Spirits. A good combo to do that, counter runes. No matter what, your opponent does not want to see counter runes. Say I've played Gorgon's Gaze, Poison Tipped Arrow, and Shield of Achilles in this game. I'm going to play Ash Rabbit, so you're going to have to pick one of those 3 cards to go back to my hand. You know I'm playing it face down, so you know you're going to have to go up against that. Or a different scenario, I use Ash Rabbit, you're going to Gorgon's Gaze it, so I can't use that effect. That's perfectly fine with me because you just burned 2 more spirits because of that. So things to think about moving forward. All the cards I have named in this video, in my opinion, are meta-relevant cards. They're great cards to have in your collection and in your decks, period. Even like the very first 10 I named, most people have at least half of those in every single deck that they play. Again, this is going to be an ongoing series. This is the first video in this series. Me trying to give back to the community slightly and trying to help new players, people that are getting into the game, people that I've met that are maybe confused or still trying to learn about the game. The next video that's going to be posted in this series is going to be about Elestrals. the actual cards themselves. So we're going to talk about enchantment costs, we're going to talk about effects, attack, defense, different combos that you guys can do in that scenario. Following that video, we're going to go ahead and talk about the runes. There are 5 different types of runes that can be played in Elestrals. We're going to talk about each one of those. We're going to talk about different combos, different scenarios. And in the last video in this series, I'm going to have one of the people in the community help me do this video, and we're going to go through an entire clash. In Elestrals, they're called clashes. When 2 casters, you as the player are a caster, so it's going to be the 2 casters going against each other in a clash. Maybe not best of 3, we'll probably just do one video, one match for you guys, but it is going to be a complete breakdown on every single move that you can do in a game, things to look out for, things that you want to do to win you the game. Always remember, every single Tuesday, mine's the week of Christmas, there is an casual night webcam tournament on the Elestrals Play Network. It's via Discord, where you actually play the matches, but it's super casual, it's free to play. A lot of new people play it, and then you have a lot of veterans too, so we're actually able to help teach you guys how to play the game. And then usually twice a month, right now anyway, there are premier events. They are paid tournaments, but they also have a decent prize pool. And there's a chance for you to be on the Elestrals stream themselves. Sometimes they actually stream your match, which is really cool. I'll have a link in this description of this video that myself and my friend Eclipse Moonglow, we were just recently in a stream for Elestrals. So that being said, guys, my name is Stella Christoph. I appreciate everyone and you guys. Please pay attention to these videos. If you guys have anything to add or you guys want to know anything else, please comment down in the comment section below. And I hope you guys all have a stellar day. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Thunder crashing, fires awake. With every breath, the winds of change will face the titans, no matter how strange. United we stand.